Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, or it's 5 o'clock somewhere, wherever you are. Todd Crandell, founder of Executive Director, and we're going to start off this episode with an awesome guy, Erich, and I'm trying to figure out why you're wearing that dumb hat.
Because not everybody's perfect, and by that I mean you.
Okay, so we're off and rolling. I normally don't take notes. I don't have notes. I just have a plethora, which you know is the only smart word I can use, right?
And use well.
And use well. So I have a plethora of topics I have to make sure I hit with you today. So I'm going to start with this. Is tomorrow a significant day for you by any chance?
It is, actually. It's my 1 year of consistent sobriety, and by far the best year I think I have ever spent sober in my memory, anyway, for sure.
Congratulations on that, and I'm going to come back to it. I want to talk to you about the first day I met you. I want to know what you endured to allow me the pleasure to meet you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a long day for sure. I had just come out of the PHP program at another place over here that was kind of linked into the detox that I had gone through. And there were some issues with my insurance. Through the destruction of my deciding to drink again, I had lost my previous job, which through my insurance over there, it just certain things weren't covered when I came to, and I wanted to come to Racing for Recovery. So in the process over there, I had tried to switch over to Medicaid, and somehow it got dropped. The ball got dropped over there. So push came to shove, and I had to be out of housing. I had nowhere to go. I was essentially homeless through, again, my behaviors and the decisions I had made. So at that point, I kind of got stuck to where I had no insurance at this point. My insurance had stopped the day before, but it didn't matter. It wasn't going to apply here. And I knew that I was up against a wall of, there is a possibility I could have stayed with relatives or something, but I had just really burnt people at that point, doing this again. So it was a very awkward situation. I ended up walking downtown, basically, to the Job and Family Services office that day. It was, I think, the 3rd of August. And it took several hours to get there, and I didn't have any money, anything to take buses, whatnot. So I went down there, and I signed up for the Medicaid, and they told me, okay, well, it's going to be a little while for you to wait for this to go into effect. And I told them my situation, that I was trying to get into Racing for Recovery, and that I must have found an angel while I was there, because, the lady said, okay, well, hang out here. Let's see what we can do to expedite the process. So I sat up there for a few hours, and lo and behold, they got me the information that I needed that day. And so I walked back here and came in and started to talk to Dan, and he told me just hang out and we'll get you taken care of, and absolutely did that day. So I got into the housing and into the IOP program, and first day of the rest of my life. So it was an amazing event. And then that day, you obviously, I don't want to fill in your end, but you had come out to me and introduced yourself, and I think I called you sir, and that was quickly quashed.
We're going to pick that back up again, right. But go ahead.
But it was really amazing to me. I had seen you on TV. I had knowledge of you, had seen you in the papers and whatnot, but I'd never met you before. And you came out and shook my hand and basically told me that I mattered. And that was the beginning of something that I knew felt completely different and was a big catalyst in what I really believed and wanted to be a permanent change. And it was just, it got everything off. I've had people tell me that, in the past, that I matter to them and whatnot. My mom, had been there and supported me, but it was different, that you had no link to me. It was just, you're worth this. And it was an amazing start.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions in that. You mentioned walking down there on July 3rd, it was, not August, right? if we're putting I'm trying to get some chronological stuff together, but doesn't really matter.
Oh, August 3rd, because I came into the program on August 6th is when I started in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned walking.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put a total miles on that? Because I have a point in asking you that. So you walked down to Job and Family Services, which was...
I think it was about a total of 20 miles, I think.
Okay, in one day to get here. Being around Racing for Recovery as long as you have, would we have accepted you even if you hadn't gotten your insurance that day?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to make that point clear that it wasn't us telling you
that
go get insurance. It was you just doing that on your own. But
right.
The reason I came out and met you that day is because when Dan was telling me what you endured that day, I was like, where is this guy? Mm-hmm. And my point is, if you can do that, you can do anything to sustain sobriety, which obviously you have. That's a great story.
Well, thank you. A lot of that was, I did. I wanted to, make sure I could be here. It was just, it had gotten to the point. It was that critical, and it was where I wanted to be. When I walked in here, I knew. I think I've told you before that if you could have made me picture in my mind what the perfect place to learn how to be sober and alive is, I would have painted the picture of this, because I just didn't know enough about it before. And what I did know was skewed with different opinions of it was just never, it was not factual, not from what I've experienced. And, if you told me I could work out, I could get healthy, I could do all these things, and that was not what I knew sobriety was about. It was about you do this, and you're probably still going to screw up, and that's part of it, and you do that. It was just the picture that had been painted in my head, and I know it works for some people, but it was not for me. There was no emotional connection. There was no drive for I could feel great. I could be happy. I didn't know what that was like. I didn't know what happy was like. I didn't remember, that it was so far gone. And that's exactly what I found was I can lift. I can do these things that I love to do already and love to do in my past when things were a little bit different, and get sober and live and actually not just exist, but to go out, do new things, meet new people, hit new, changed my entire thought process and belief system about myself. And it was just, I could go on for days.
So, at Racing for Recovery, we don't do the war stories. So I want you briefly to tell me what your repeated choice to drink alcohol, what that did to you.
Oh, so many different levels. I lost everything repeatedly. Relationships mostly. That was at least that's the one that I think bore the most emotional scars, was that I constantly lied, deceived, financially impacted me hugely, legally, multiple DUIs. But again, I was able, I would gotten to a point after making these choices so many times where I called myself, I was a world champion drunk. I could lose everything in 24 hours. Whatever I had amassed
some humor
during the period of sobriety, if you want to call it that I had in between these bouts of going back and drinking, I could lose instantaneously. And I was, like I said, I had really built some efficiency at it, unfortunately. You name it, I've lost it because of this. My health, had suffered at different points, financially, legally, freedom, relationships, some very good relationships that I'm working on getting back and working hard towards hopefully making amends and letting my actions speak so that the trust can be rebuilt there.
I'm having a hard time of trying to be professional with you right now because I do have a tendency to be professional, but as my grandma is a huge part of why Racing for Recovery is here. And I keep looking at that hat and her being a diehard Ohio State fan. I know you're staring at this hat, so we have to do something when this is over to change your appearance, or my grandma's just going to be up in heaven having another heart attack or whatever. So we're going to change that. But anyway,
okay, we can
moving forward. You sent me an interesting text from your mom last night.
Yeah.
And I think the word skeptical was used in there, which we earn from our repeated choices to drink. Tell me about how that text message she sent to you, how it made you feel, and what it felt like to send that to me.
It was pretty amazing. The gist of it was, again, my mom has watched. She's been supportive of me, but I mean, after several times of me getting sober and then deciding to go drink again because of my own personal demons, and again, the other thing that I never did prior to coming here was ever get at the root cause of the trauma, the pain, what kept me going out, what started me drinking, and what kept me out there, what was my pitfall that created this constant cycle. And through this place, I have been able to address that and continue to work on that and begin to live again. So she had seen me go out and have extended sobriety, but then go right back to it, So it's that, when is the other foot going to fall, constantly. And I got a text from her the other day, again, right on the cusp of my year of consistent sobriety, that was telling me how this transformation was different this time, that she could see that she could tell that it was so much more fun to celebrate at this time because and the truth of it is real. That's the big difference. This is not me hoping that I'm going to stay sober. It's knowing. It's knowing because it's real this time. It's not hiding behind some facade or believing aimlessly in some, not to knock on anybody, but another program where I'm just white knuckling and saying, God, I hope this works. It's not like that this time. This is substance. It's built on a solid foundation of hard work and consistent effort and things that I've been taught here that I'm no longer afraid. There's no fear involved in, what if this happens? What if that happens? Before, I think being able to cope with situations in the real world was always taken on a very, very thin line with me. It was always a balancing act. Oh crap, am I going to lose this? Am I going to do this right? And even if, one thing that I've learned here is that, failure in sobriety is one thing. It's okay. I can fail over and over again because I can keep getting back up and keep trying, as long as I don't make the decision to go back out. And I can't do anything when I'm drunk. So as long as I stay sober, I'm going to make mistakes, but it ain't the end all. It's not a failure. It's not a stamp that says, see, you weren't good enough to do that. It's no, I just didn't make it that time. And I can continue to, I like to set goals now that are beyond my reach, so that, people are like, well, you're not going to reach those. Yeah, but I can become the guy that can reach those now. And I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of the work. So it's, it was built this time. The big thing that it meant so much to me from my mom, because she could see that. And what felt even better is I know it's real. I knew it's true. It's built on honesty this time, not on what I hope to be and what I can eke out as a lie or embellish something to make it something it ain't. It's real this time. So,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we only had one scheduled individual counseling session. I think I met with you once.
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to know, what that did for you. I want to make this clear. It's not what I did for you. What is the information that I shared with you one time that has appeared to have worked or was a catalyst to get you to start doing the work that you have put into this? Let me say it this way. The information I gave you that day, what resonated with you to get you to actually do it, to lead you to the success story that you are today?
Wow. We only had the one official. We've had a lot of informal ones,
right?
That weren't sitting, I guess, at this desk. But that day, the one big factor I got to say, I was ready to get this weight off, and that I think that was a critical thing. But it was, and again, it kind of hinges back to meeting you and the way that you told me, and I've had people here tell me that, we'll love you. I hated who I was and I hated who I had become. And it was a lot of saying, don't worry about that. We'll love you until you learn how, and not only that, they walk the walk here. It's not just, hey, we'll tell you that and forget who you are the next day. It just doesn't happen. It's, in my case, it certainly has never happened. And then when we started talking, it was, I was trying to come out with honesty that I really didn't know how to do. I hadn't done it in 40 years. It was not something that I had. It was trying to uncover these things that I felt about myself that were not good enough. That in my mind, I pictured I was not worthy of. I should be punished. I felt like because of my actions and because of the destructions that I had caused, I should be punished. And you introduced to me the fact that I was not. My actions did not reflect what I was made up of as a person. I did some heinous stuff. I did some despicable things, told some despicable lies, but that didn't make me a terrible, horrible person. It was just these hurts that I wanted to cover up. It was these things that were my actions under the influence of alcohol or the deception, the whole life of it. It were things I did, not who I was, and that I could change that. And the fact that me going out and drinking was a choice. It was these things that gave me power. I used to use the whole alcohol is a disease as a crutch for me. That was my excuse to go out and drink. I was expected to because I had a disease. And I never could come to terms with that. That was like, I'm doomed. You're telling me I'm going to live like this? And I believed it. Mm-hmm. And even though I thought maybe I could change it, I had so many people tell me I couldn't, that I was going to side with them because it was easier just to go drink. And now it's easier to make the decision not to. I have so much now that I never would give that away. And it is my choice. It's I think for all of us. Every single time we've decided to do that, it is a decision that we decided we wanted to do that. That's why we did. So my big thing was the want to get to the reasons of why I want to feel different than I do. And one was because I just didn't feel very good because I wasn't in shape. I wasn't doing a lot of the things that healthy, happy people do. And once I got on the road to doing that, I knew my stress levels were at an all-time low. My anxiety is at an all-time low. I feel good about the way I look, the way I feel strong. There's just so many things that are positives. Why change that? If anything, I just want to make those better. I never felt good drinking. I never felt good hiding, lying, deceiving the people I love. That was never a pleasure. It was a hell. It was a punishment. But I always felt I had to be punished. And why not me punish me? Because I know where to hit. I know where it hurts. So that's what I did. And that was a repetitive cycle on and off. And anytime that I felt like I wasn't perfect, that was failure to me. And again, just with one sitting here behind, with one clinical session, you were able to dispel a lot of these beliefs I had about myself, that this was some endless road, that this was, I believed up until that point that I was a bad person. These were not actions I had done under the influence or just under the whole weight and throes of alcoholism. This was who I was. It was a disease. But you and the people here have made me know that's not the case. These are things that I did. I don't always have to be that guy, or try to find some guy with false beliefs and principles and morals and values. I can be me, and that's good enough.
We've been doing these podcasts for a little bit now, and I'm picturing the guy or the family that's in Tucson, Arizona, that is so used to the drunkalogs and the war stories, and I drank this and I smoked that. Not one of your comments has been anything to do with a quantity of how much you did and how many cars you crashed. It always has to do with, I was feeling this way, I chose to make a decision to drink alcohol to deal with that, and look where my life became. And then it immediately turns into, I make a choice to do the positive things, and boom, we're off and running. I love that about Racing for Recovery. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, I think it was within the first month you were here, you went with, now I'm going to start laughing, went with me to Ironman Maine. It was a half Ironman in Maine. Talk to me about that trip. What's it done for you?
That changed my life. There's no question about it. I got to go with guys that are, still sober, still good friends of mine. And that was kind of what bonded us all. I think that very trip, none of us knew each other that well when we went, but during that trip, the group of us got to know each other very, very well. And it was amazing on so many levels. I couldn't believe that in a month, and I don't think anybody that knew I went could believe it either. And that was kind of what in my immediate circle kind of shed the light on Racing for Recovery and what it does here is in a month and a half, we take this huge trip. You get in a van, going to watch an Ironman in Maine, a state I'd never been in before. I'd never been to New England before in my life. So going up there and staying in this awesome house that this great guy had donated, he put up these professional triathletes and guys that come up there to do things. And it was like a dream come true. We stayed in this gorgeous place. And then, but I think the experience, not only the camaraderie, but just the joke, man, I've never laughed so hard in my life, I think, is where we got introduced to Sebastian Maniscalco as a comedian, or I did anyway.
Yeah.
And man, I hurt from laughing that whole time, But then the amazing part of this was just another building block of what affirmed to me of what people are capable of and what people can do when I got to see the Ironman for the first time and watch this incredible collection of so vastly diverse people start and finish what I was looking at and deemed an impossibility of the human body. It was just to watch, I saw amputees, people a blind man, people that looked like they were grossly overweight, that you think, how could you possibly start and finish this? And the bottom line is they convinced, their mind convinced the body it was going to do this. And to know and see up front and close and personal the amount of drive and the amount of love, and it was so positive. There was not a negative person at this entire event. There was 2,000 people out here, I think, and it was just jumping the entire time with positivity. And I touched on before, I've always had this problem in my head about this perfection. If it wasn't perfect, it wasn't good enough, and that's kind of how I built myself up over the years, was failure after failure and not being good enough. And one thing I noticed at the Ironman was that, man, yeah, the winner crosses the thing and gets cheered, but it's almost like as soon as he crosses, everybody's looking, back down the line of these people coming across, and the last person got as many cheers and as many people standing there as that first guy did. It was a triumph for that person. It was not about who won this race. I bet nobody can remember the name, except the guy who won probably. But every single person, it was this battle with themselves. What am I capable of? What am I willing to endure to do what I want to get done in my life? And this is part of my life. And it was just an amazing triumph of the soul for these people, and watching everybody do it and their reactions and what that must have felt like. So it was just that amazing. And then to watch you do it, we were just like, to have that up close and personal, with you every day is just that constant reminder of what we're really capable of. I think a lot of us, whether you're an addict or not, we sell ourselves so short of what we can really do out there. And that's just something I feel like I've been reborn in here, because it's like my life's starting over again with a whole different perspective of what I am capable of and what I'm proving myself capable of versus what I used to think I was incapable of. And it's just, like I said, it's been a total 180, and that trip just solidified. I think to a person, every one of us that went on that trip, we still talk about it and talk about how it changed our lives, and that we got to see some of these, everything in it was pure and honest and true and real. And nobody can stand there and tell me, oh, yeah, some people can. No, I think anybody can do it if you really want to do it.
The thing and I find myself talking about these trips a lot. And again, I don't want people to think, oh, it's all about the Ironman. Well, the truth be told is, if I hadn't done my first Ironman, this whole program wouldn't exist. The point of me bringing these up is, if we look like statistically, you go on how many of these things we've done with how many people, it's like 95% of the people are still sober. Mm-hmm. And for me doing them, it's a relatability factor. I want, and you're validating this, which I'm proud of. It's not about, look at me, I'm doing this Ironman. It's taking the term Ironman and making it applicable to sobriety. You had mentioned this earlier, that drive. Well, you put that same drive into anything in recovery, you'll get it. It's the Racing for Recovery slogan. With sobriety, anything is possible. It's never for me about comparing. It's, I want to take these guys on something and have them relate to this in any capacity. The nicest thing, we had some funny stuff up there. The Johnson comment at the thing was hilarious when I always do that, ordering food. But you had said to me when I made that joke, when they asked me the name of our order and I said Johnson, for you that was like, this dude is one of us. Mm-hmm. And that solidified why I do what I do. It's the relatability factor. If I can do this, you can do it too. And again, looking at you now with a year of sobriety on tomorrow, it's like that validates everything we do. So let's move on to this. Tell me what it was like to meet my buddy Dave Rude from Tesla in Chicago this past February. What was that like?
I see. That's another perfect example of something I'd never ever experienced somewhere else. That was too cool, man. I mean, and it was, again, a reinforcement. He just seemed like such a normal guy. You see him up, the guitar player for Tesla up on stage, and we're watching him in concert in this awesome balcony. It was just an incredible experience at the House of Blues in Chicago. And, he's great seats. He's pointing, from just, and again, none of that would be possible if it weren't for continually doing, the things that made this great. But, it felt like a personalized concert almost to start with, because you had Tesla pointing up at different songs, where they were flashing back to some of the, music from Running with Demons and things of that nature. But then after the concert, we had a blast of a day again, like we always do. But it was waiting afterwards and you guys texting back and forth where we're going to meet and everything. And I know the group of us, we all started getting nervous because we're about to meet Dave Rude, the guitar player in the legendary, band Tesla. And he comes walking out, hair back in a ponytail, looking nothing like he did on stage. And just totally normal. You guys start having this conversation about your daughters and dogs. And and we're all just kind of mesmerized, standing here like little kids, like, this guy's normal too, what's going on here? And it was.
Do you remember what you asked him? Because that's why I brought this story up. Do you remember what you asked him?
I think so. Well, I mean, I think I asked him because I wondered if he always thought he would be, a guitar player in a huge band at this level, at this, was it always something he knew, or was it something that he kind of figured out along the way and decided, maybe I can make it. And he kind of answered like this is what he always expected he was going to do. And
there's always a point of why I ask these things, because when you ask that question, it reminded me of when I first stopped. I knew I was done drinking and I knew I was going to do something. I didn't know what, but I knew I was going to do something. And it's the exact way that Dave answered that. I knew I was going to play music. Yep, I just didn't know I was going to be in Tesla. And again, the relatability factor, and we're going to get to this too, I'm sure you didn't think that you were going to have us help you get a CDCA and potentially hire you here. And now that's coming. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But that's the point of a couple of things. A, I listen to people, and when you said that, I'm like, I will use that for the rest of our relationship about how it's, again, that's that power of visualization, of knowing I can do something. It's our slogan, with sobriety, anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you asked him that, I'm like, God, that's so applicable to my life, the life you're now creating, his life. It's all relatable, and I even think of this, the first time I heard Tesla was at this Sylvania Quarry, and I was drunk and smoking pot, and a friend of mine introduced him to me. And then I'm thinking of that, and then here we are talking to him. And it's those same things. It's like choice A to stop drinking leads to experience B, C, D through Z of this is awesome. And you're validating that, and I love it. So tell me, let's talk about the CDCA and you getting that and now going to be joining us. What's that like for you?
I didn't really speak it out loud because I was, again, had that hang up that I would jinx it out of existence possibly. But once I stepped in here, knowing I always wanted to, during bouts of sobriety, even though it was an unhappy sobriety, there was periods that I knew that if I knew anything in this world, it was how to be a drunk, and it was what it cost me and the things that have affected me. And I figured if I was ever going to be able to teach something out of my own failures, it was going to be hopefully how to pass on the message and hope for somebody that sobriety is possible, happy sobriety is possible. Yes. And once I found this place, and like I said, I felt like I had walked into a lifestyle that was contoured to me getting sober, not everybody else out there, but like this was built for me. And I still feel that way. I really do. I've yet to find a single thing that I don't agree with here. And from that day, I said, I want to work here. Someday I will do whatever it takes to make myself, put myself in a position where I can contribute to what is going on here. And, I knew from talking to you and different people in the staff here, which I always refer to, I say it's the SEAL team here. It is because the staff here have all got their own little niche in it, and everybody's got their own incredible gift that they bring to the table, and it all meshes together so well that it's fun to watch, and it's amazing and just incredible. I feel like the staff here, to me and everybody, they feel like family. It's different, so it's such a comfortable feeling. But it's at that point I knew that there were things I was going to have to do. Not to mention this. I know I don't mention sobriety a lot because, to be honest, now that I expect that's part of my life. That's like me waking up in the morning. That's what's going to happen. If it were different, then we got a serious problem. Right. But so I don't really harp on that much because that's who I am. That's part of my life, and that's how it's going to be, and that's how I expect to be. But it's I knew there was some things I was going to have to do, and the CDCA being a requirement here that's you have to get that to be part of this. And so I came in, we talked about it individually, and Todd Bieber, you guys said, hey, let's get this done. If this is what you want to do, let's do this. So Todd sat me down and took care of everything, man, and it was just it's amazing. So I went through, got it, and now soon hopefully live the dream, man. This is I would never want to be somewhere else. This is not, because Racing for Recovery does it like Dan always says. I can't put it any better. It's done right here. And I believe with all of my heart, it fits my values, it fits my beliefs. I believe 100% in the way it's done here is done right. It's the way it should be done. I think it can influence the most amount of people. And I think even in the meeting last night, we touched on when you read from the new book, it was, this place is good for people, period. It's not just addicts. It's not just the family of addicts. It's good for people, man. People, there should be a requirement that people can come through here and check out what's really going on so that they can see what a holistic lifestyle can do for you, as a person, and help you get over, all of us, I think, to an extent, have some kind of, hang up some, different parts of us that we wish were different, and even if you're not struggling with addiction or different behaviors of that nature, there's things you can learn about yourself here just from pushing and consistent action and choices and the things that are driven here. But I wouldn't want to work somewhere in a clinical environment somewhere else and put that into play because it doesn't mesh with what I believe and everything that's here. With the way that this being a lifestyle and not a program, and it's the truth. It's in my opinion, if you want it to last, it's got to be the truth. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be part of another environment that's trying to tell you, a more traditional approach that this is how this works, and you're a victim, and you're it's not a choice, it's disease. I don't buy those things anymore. And so this is where I want to be for the rest of my life, doing that. So
one final question I have for you. There's a guy who's in his mid-40s, lost everything to drinking. He's sitting in Atlanta, Georgia, somehow stumbles upon this interview right now. Speak to that dude. What's available for him?
His life, rebirth. It's going to be a lot of hard work. You really got to want to do this. And the first thing you got to do is put that bottle down. Put that bottle down, maybe start giving some thought to, why am I doing this to myself? Why do I not like me? And that was a question that I had to ask myself. And, at that point when I came here, I knew some of the answers to that. Will it go away completely? No, but it's always something that I'll be able to manage now. I've likened it to I used to have those cartoon high voltage switches that you see, where they flip it up and down and it jolts everything. Just about anybody could walk up and flip my switch that way and send me off running and drinking because of fear. But now it's kind of like that switch I can still see it on the wall, but there's no current running to it anymore. You can flip it all day and you're not going to send me off the rails to go drink again because there's nothing there for me. I know it feels like it's too late sometimes. Have I waited too long? As my life passed me by, I look at all these things. Man, you have no idea what's still out there and what you're capable of. You just got to give yourself a chance to like who you are, to love you. That's got to be part of it. I think so, because, every penalty, every punishment, every negative consequence of my drinking was not enough to make me stop. Okay, because the punishment was what I was seeking out because I felt I deserved it. And until I changed the way I thought about that, with help of the fact that it wasn't who I was, it was what I did. Okay, I didn't deserve to be punished anymore, and I was punishing myself enough for an army of people. Once you can start to get that, and that's what is here. That's what what this place is all about. It's figuring out who you are and being okay with that because it's good enough. And once you start to realize that putting down the bottle or whatever it is, that comes second nature. You're not going to hurt yourself anymore.
Dude, I'm proud of you. I just want to say for everybody who's watching Racing for Recovery, Erich said it brilliantly. This program really is for everybody. If you or loved ones battling addiction, get a hold of us so you can talk like this young man has been doing. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you next week.